There are sounds that are not meant to be answered. There are voices that do not belong to the living. And there is a place where if you respond even once, nothing will ever be the same again. If one night, you hear someone calling your name from the lake, remember this. Never answer. Chapter 1. The Nameless Lake. No one in the village could say exactly when the lake first appeared. Some claimed it had always been there, hidden deep within the forest beyond the last row of houses. Others whispered that it emerged overnight, as if something beneath the earth had opened its eyes and filled the hollow with black, unmoving water. But no map ever marked it, and no official record ever mentioned it. So people simply called it the Nameless Lake. The path leading to it was narrow and overgrown, swallowed by twisted roots and damp moss. Even during the brightest hours of the day, the forest around it seemed dimmer than the rest of the world. As if the sunlight itself hesitated to enter. The air grew colder the closer one walked, heavy with the scent of wet soil and something else, something faintly rotten. Like forgotten things left too long beneath water. And then there was the lake. Its surface was wrong. Not calm, no. Calm water still reflects the sky, the trees, the world above it, but this lake reflected nothing. Its surface was dark, thick, almost like ink spilled into a bottomless pit. Even when the wind moved through the forest, rustling branches and bending grass, the lake remained perfectly still, as if it did not belong to the same world as everything around it. No birds flew over it. No insects hovered near its edge. And no animals ever drank from it. The villagers had long since learned to stay away. Children were warned from the moment they were old enough to understand words. Parents would lower their voices, their expressions turning serious in a way that frightened even the most stubborn child. Never go near the lake. But why? At that question, adults would always hesitate. Their eyes would drift, not toward the forest, but away from it, as if even the thought of the lake might hear them. In the end, they would only say one thing. If you ever hear someone calling your name from the lake, a pause. Do not answer. It didn't matter whose voice it was. Not your mother. Not your father. Not someone you loved. Especially not someone who should no longer be alive. Because those who answered never came back the same. Or worse, they never came back at all. And on certain nights, when the wind died and the village fell into an uneasy silence, some people swore they could hear it. A voice, soft, distant, calling from somewhere deep within the forest. Calling a name. Waiting for an answer. Chapter 2. The First Call. Men arrived in the village on a night soaked in rain. The road that led there was long, narrow, and almost forgotten, cutting through endless stretches of forest that seemed to grow thicker with every passing mile. By the time the bus dropped him off at the edge of the village, the sky had already darkened into a deep, oppressive gray. Rain fell in thin, endless lines, soaking the earth and turning the ground beneath his feet into cold, clinging mud. The village itself was quiet, too quiet. A few dim lights flickered behind wooden windows. But no one lingered outside. No voices. No laughter. No sound of life. It felt as if the entire place was holding its breath. Min tightened his grip on his bag and walked toward the small house he had rented. The woman who owned it greeted him with a polite but distant smile. Her eyes lingered on him for a moment longer than necessary, as if measuring something she couldn't quite explain. "You're new," she said. Min nodded. She hesitated, then added in a lower voice, "There's only one thing you need to remember." He waited. "Whatever you hear at night." Her fingers tightened slightly around the doorframe. "Don't answer." Min frowned. "Answer what?" But she didn't explain. Instead, she simply stepped aside and let him in. That night, the rain didn't stop. It tapped endlessly against the roof, against the windows, against the walls, as if something outside was trying to get in. Min lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The unfamiliar silence of the village pressed down on him, broken only by the steady rhythm of the rain. Then, "Min." The voice was soft. So soft that for a moment, he thought he had imagined it. His eyes snapped open. He held his breath. The rain continued. Nothing else. A few seconds passed. Then again. "Min, come outside?" This time, it was clearer. Closer. Right outside his door. A cold chill ran through his body. The voice. He knew that voice. It was impossible. "Mom?" The word almost slipped from his lips. His throat tightened, and his heart began to pound violently against his chest. That voice, it sounded exactly like her. The same gentle tone, the same warmth he hadn't heard in 5 long years. But that couldn't be true. His mother was dead. He sat up slowly, every movement careful, as if afraid that even the smallest sound might reveal that he was awake. His eyes drifted toward the door. Silence. Then, "Min, it's cold, open the door." A faint sound followed. Drip, drip, drip. Water. Min's gaze lowered to the floor. Just beneath the door, a thin line of water began to seep inside, spreading slowly across the wooden boards. It moved unnaturally, as if guided by something unseen. His breath caught. The warning. "Whatever you hear at night, don't answer." Min clenched his fists. Every instinct inside him screamed to respond, to run to the door, to call out to the voice he had missed for years. But something deeper, something older, held him still. The voice came again, softer now, almost pleading. "Min, why won't you answer me?" His lips trembled, but he said nothing. Minutes passed. Then, slowly, the voice faded. The dripping stopped, and the water on the floor disappeared, as if it had never been there at all. Min did not sleep for the rest of the night. And somewhere far beyond the house, deep within the forest, something waited, listening.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 3. The Ones Who Disappeared. Morning came slowly, as if the village itself was reluctant to wake. A pale gray light filtered through the clouds, replacing the darkness of the storm with something that felt only slightly less oppressive. The rain had stopped, but the air remained damp and heavy, clinging to everything it touched. Even the ground seemed reluctant to dry, as though the night had left something behind that refused to fade. Min hadn't slept. He sat at the edge of his bed, staring at the door. It looked ordinary now. Dry, silent, closed, as if nothing had happened. But he knew better. The memory of the voice still lingered in his ears. Clear and undeniable. That voice, his mother's voice, had called to him. Just beyond the thin piece of wood that separated him from whatever had been waiting outside. And the water? He swallowed hard. It had been real. Hadn't it? By late morning, Min stepped outside. The village looked different in daylight, but not entirely normal. People moved quietly, their conversations low and brief. When they passed him, they nodded politely, but their eyes held something else, curiosity. Yes, but also something closer to unease. As if they already knew. Min walked toward a small tea stall near the center of the village. A few elderly men sat there, their faces lined with age and silence. The moment he approached, their conversation stopped. "Good morning," Min said, trying to sound casual. No one replied at first. Then one of the men gestured for him to sit. Min hesitated, then did. For a while, no one spoke. Finally, he asked, "There's something I want to know." The men exchanged glances. Min continued, his voice quieter now. "Last night, I heard someone calling my name." Silence fell over the table like a weight. No one looked surprised. That frightened him more than anything. "What did it sound like?" one of them asked. Min hesitated. "My mother." A long pause followed. One of the older men let out a slow breath, his gaze dropping to the ground. "It always does that," he muttered. Min leaned forward. "Does what?" Another man spoke this time, his voice rough and low. "It calls you using the voice you trust the most." A chill crept up Min's spine. "It," he repeated. The men didn't answer immediately. Instead, the oldest among them finally lifted his head. His eyes were clouded, but there was something sharp behind them, something that had seen too much. "The lake," he said. Min's chest tightened. "What about it?" The old man studied him for a long moment, as if deciding whether or not to continue. Then he asked, "Did you answer?" Min shook his head. A faint ripple of relief passed through the group. "Good," the old man said quietly. "Then you still have time." "Time for what?" No one answered right away. The wind stirred slightly, carrying with it the faint scent of wet earth from the direction of the forest. Finally, the old man spoke again. "There were others before you," he said, "people who heard the voice." Min's hands slowly clenched. "What happened to them?" The man's expression didn't change. They answered. A pause. And then, they went to the lake. Min felt his throat tighten. "Did they come back?" Another silence. Longer this time. The men avoided his eyes. One of them finally whispered, almost reluctantly. "Some did." Min leaned forward. "And the others?" The old man's gaze hardened slightly. "The others," he said, "were never seen again." A cold weight settled in Min's chest. "And the ones who came back?" he asked. No one spoke. But this time, the silence was enough of an answer. As Min stood to leave, the old man called out to him one last time. "If it calls you again," he said, his voice steady but heavy with warning. "Don't make the mistake they did." Min stopped. The wind shifted again, rustling faintly through the trees at the edge of the village. And for just a brief moment, he thought he heard something. A distant sound. Soft. Familiar. Calling his name. Chapter 4. Wet Footprints. That night, the village seemed even quieter than before. No rain fell this time. The sky hung low and heavy, smothered in thick clouds that swallowed any trace of moonlight. The darkness outside felt deeper, denser, as if it had weight, pressing against the walls of Min's small rented house. Inside, everything was still. Too still. Min sat on his bed, fully awake, his back against the wall, eyes fixed on the door. He hadn't dared to turn off the light. The faint yellow glow from the bulb above flickered occasionally, as if struggling to remain alive. He was waiting. Or perhaps, he was afraid not to. Hours passed. Nothing happened. No voice. No sound. Just silence. A slow, creeping sense of unease began to settle over him. It wasn't relief. It was worse than that, like the quiet before something inevitable. Then, a faint sound. Not from outside. From the door. Min froze. It was subtle. Almost nothing. But it was there. A soft, dragging noise. Like something wet being pulled slowly across wood. His breath caught in his throat. He leaned forward slightly, straining to listen. The sound came again. Closer this time. And then, drip. A single drop. Clear. Sharp. Falling onto the floor. Min's eyes slowly lowered. Just beneath the door, water was seeping in. Not spreading naturally. Not pooling randomly. It moved in a thin, deliberate line, sliding forward, inch by inch, as if guided by an unseen hand. Another drop fell. Drip. Then another. Drip, drip, drip. The sound echoed unnaturally loud in the silent room. Min's heart began to pound, each beat heavy and uneven. Then, Min, the voice came again. Right outside. Closer than before. Clearer. Min, open the door? It was her. Exactly her. The same voice from the night before. Soft. Gentle. Familiar. And wrong. Min clenched his fists so tightly his nails dug into his palms. The warning. Whatever you hear at night, don't answer. But the voice. It sounded so real. So human. Min, it's me. A pause. Then softer. Aren't you going to let me in? The water had reached the middle of the room now. Min stared at it in horror. Because it wasn't just spreading. It was forming something. Shapes. Faint at first. Then clearer. Footprints. Wet. Bare. One after another. Appearing on the wooden floor. Each step facing inward. Leading from the door. Toward him. Min stopped breathing. There was no one there. No shadow. No movement. And yet, the footprints kept appearing. Step. 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 As if something invisible had already entered the room. The voice came again. But this time, it wasn't from the door. It was behind him. Min, his entire body locked in place. Slowly, very slowly, he turned his head. Nothing. Just the empty wall. The dim light. And the sound of water. Dripping. Closer. Closer. Min, right next to his ear. A whisper. Cold. Wet. Not human. Min squeezed his eyes shut. every muscle in his body trembling violently. He didn't scream. He didn't move. He didn't answer. Minutes passed. Or maybe seconds. He couldn't tell. And then, silence. The dripping stopped. The air shifted. Carefully, painfully, slowly, Min opened his eyes. The floor was dry. No footprints. No water. Nothing. But as he sat there, frozen in place, his chest rising and falling in shallow breaths, he realized something. The door was slightly open. Just a crack. As if something had already gone inside. Or worse, something had never left.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 5. The One Beneath the Water. Min didn't remember when he finally fell asleep. Perhaps it wasn't sleep at all, just a moment when his mind, exhausted by fear, slipped into something deeper and darker. His body remained tense, unmoving on the bed, while his thoughts drifted somewhere far away, somewhere cold, somewhere wet. He was standing at the edge of the lake. The forest around him was silent, unnaturally silent. No wind, no rustling leaves, no distant sounds of life. Even his own breathing seemed muffled, as if the air itself had thickened into something heavy and suffocating. The nameless lake stretched before him. Black. Still. Endless. The surface didn't reflect him. Min frowned. He stepped closer. The ground beneath his feet felt soft, almost like it was sinking. But he couldn't stop himself. Something was pulling him forward, not physically, but deeper than that, a quiet, irresistible urge, like a whisper buried inside his own thoughts. Come closer. He reached the water's edge. And that was when he saw it. A shape beneath the surface. At first, it was just a shadow, distorted, blurred by the darkness of the lake, but slowly it moved. Rising. Closer. Clearer. Min's breath caught. It was a person. Standing upright beneath the water. Not floating. Not drifting. Standing. As if the bottom of the lake was no different from solid ground. Its body was thin, too thin, its limbs elongated in unnatural ways. Long strands of black hair floated around its face, obscuring its features. The water did not ripple around it. It was completely still. Watching, Min felt his chest tighten. "Who are you?" he whispered. The moment the words left his lips, the thing moved. Its head tilted upward. Slowly. Deliberately. And though Min still couldn't see its face clearly, he knew. It was looking at him. Then it spoke. But the voice did not come from its mouth. It came from everywhere. From the water. From the air. From inside his own head. "So, you can hear me?" Min stumbled back, his heart slamming violently against his ribs. "No, I didn't." "You didn't answer." The voice continued, calm and hollow. "But you listened." The water around the figure darkened further, as if something deeper beneath it had begun to stir. "That is enough." Min shook his head, panic rising. "What are you?" A pause. Then, "I am what remains." The figure lifted one arm. Its fingers were too long, too thin, and as it reached upward, the surface of the lake trembled. "Come closer." Min felt it again. That pull. Stronger this time. His feet shifted forward against his will, toes touching the edge of the water. "No," he whispered, trying to stop himself. "You already belong to me." The voice softened, changed, familiar, painfully familiar. "Min." His entire body froze. "Don't you recognize me?" The hair drifted aside, just for a moment, and beneath it, a face. His mother's face. Pale, distorted, smiling too wide. Min screamed. He woke up choking on air. His body jolted upright, his hands gripping the sheets tightly as if trying to anchor himself to reality. His heart pounded wildly, each breath sharp and uneven. It was just a dream. It had to be. But something felt wrong. Very wrong. Slowly, trembling, Min looked down. The bed sheets beneath him were soaked. Not with sweat. With water. Cold. Thick. And carrying a faint, unmistakable smell. Of the lake. A drop slid from his fingertips. Drip. Then another. Drip. Min's breathing slowed. Because he realized the water was still dripping. Not from the bed. Not from the floor. But from somewhere above him. He raised his head. Slowly. Terrified of what he might see. And for a brief moment, just a single, frozen second, he thought he saw something on the ceiling. A shape. Clinging. Watching. Its long, wet hair hanging down. Almost close enough to touch his face. Then the light flickered. And it was gone. But the smell of the lake remained. Chapter 6. The Final Warning. Min didn't leave the house that morning. He couldn't. The memory of the dream, no, not just a dream, the presence, clung to him like a second skin. Even in daylight, the room felt damp, heavy, as if the night had never truly ended. He had changed the bed sheets. Twice. But no matter how many times he wiped the floor, aired out the room, or washed his hands, the faint smell of lake water lingered. Cold. Stale. Unnatural. By noon, there was a knock at the door. Min froze. His heart skipped once, hard and painful. Another knock followed. Firm. Human. "Min, it's me." The voice was old, rough, familiar. Min exhaled slowly and forced himself to move. When he opened the door, the old man from the tea stall stood there, leaning slightly on a wooden cane. His eyes scanned Min's face immediately, searching, calculating. "You didn't sleep," the old man said. It wasn't a question. Min stepped aside, letting him in. The old man walked slowly into the room, then stopped. He didn't sit. He didn't speak. He simply stood there, breathing in. Once. Twice. His expression darkened. "It's been inside," he said quietly. Min's stomach dropped. "What?" The old man turned to him, his gaze sharp now. "The thing from the lake." A cold silence filled the room. Min swallowed. "That's not possible." The old man didn't argue. Instead, he pointed to the floor. "Water doesn't come into a house on its own," he said, "and it doesn't leave footprints, unless something walks with it." Min's hands trembled slightly. He hadn't told anyone about the footprints. "It has chosen you," the old man continued. "Chosen me for what?" A long pause. Then, To answer. Min shook his head quickly. I didn't answer. I didn't say anything. That doesn't matter anymore. The words fell like stones. Min stared at him. What do you mean? The old man stepped closer. You heard it, he said. You listened. You let it speak to you more than once. Min opened his mouth, but no words came out. Because deep down, he knew it was true. The old man's voice softened slightly. Long ago, we didn't understand it, he said. We thought it was just voices, spirits, something lost. He shook his head slowly. But it's not lost. It's hunting. A chill ran through Min's spine. It calls using the voices of the dead. The old man continued, not because it remembers them, but because you do. Min's breath grew shallow. It learns from you, he whispered. The old man nodded once. And once it knows your voice well enough. Another pause. It doesn't need to call anymore. The room felt smaller, darker. Min glanced instinctively toward the door. It was closed, but somehow, it didn't feel like protection anymore. What happens if I answer? Min asked, his voice barely audible. The old man looked at him for a long time. Then he said, you won't belong to yourself anymore. Min's chest tightened. And if I don't? The old man's grip tightened on his cane. For the first time, there was something like uncertainty in his eyes. You might still have a chance. A pause. But not for long. The wind outside shifted slightly. A faint rustling came from the direction of the forest. Both men fell silent, listening, waiting. Then, very faintly, from somewhere far away, a voice, soft, almost gentle. Min. The old man's expression changed instantly. Don't respond, he said sharply. Min didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't speak. The voice came again, closer. Min, I'm waiting. The air in the room grew colder, heavier. Min felt it. That pull again. Stronger than before. More insistent. The old man stepped between Min and the door. Listen to me, he said firmly. From this moment on, no matter what you hear, you do not answer. Min nodded slowly, though his body trembled. The voice faded, but not completely. It lingered, like something that had only stepped back, not gone. As the old man turned to leave, he stopped at the doorway. Without looking back, he said one last thing. This is the final warning. A pause. Then, quietly, next time, it won't ask. The door closed. And for the first time since Min arrived in the village, he understood something terrifying. The voice wasn't just calling him anymore. It was learning how to become him.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 7. The Voices of the Dead. That night came faster than Min expected. Or perhaps, it had never truly left. The sky outside darkened long before sunset, swallowed by thick, unmoving clouds. No stars appeared, no moonlight touched the village. It was as if something had covered the world with a heavy, suffocating veil. Inside the house, Min sat in silence. He hadn't turned on the lights. He didn't dare. The shadows felt safer than the possibility of seeing something that shouldn't be there. At first, there was nothing. Just the quiet. That unnatural, pressing quiet that seemed to stretch endlessly, wrapping itself around every corner of the room. Min tried to steady his breathing, tried to stay focused. Don't answer. The old man's warning echoed in his mind again and again. Then, a sound. Not from outside. From everywhere. A faint murmur. Like distant voices carried through water. Min's eyes snapped open. He held his breath. The sound grew clearer. Layered. Overlapping. Dozens of voices. Whispering. Calling. Min. Min, help me. Min, please. His chest tightened. Those voices. He recognized them. Not all at once. But one by one. A friend from childhood. A teacher. A neighbor. People he hadn't thought about in years. People who were gone. Dead. Min, it's me. The voice shifted. Changed. A new voice emerged from the chaos. Closer. Clearer. Don't you remember? Min squeezed his eyes shut, shaking his head violently. No, no. But the voices didn't stop. They grew louder. More desperate. Answer us. Please. It's cold. We can't get out. Min clutched his head, his fingers digging into his hair as if he could tear the sound away from his skull. But the voices weren't outside. They were inside. A sudden sharp knock echoed through the room. Bang! Min froze. The door. Another knock followed. Harder this time. Bang! Bang! Min, open the door? A woman's voice. Familiar. Too familiar. He didn't move. Then, another sound. Behind him. Soft. Wet. Step. Min's breath caught. No. It couldn't be. Step. Closer. The sound of bare feet against wood. Slow. Dragging. Like something that had just crawled out of water. The voices began to change. Distort. Stretch unnaturally. Min. Mean. Min. They overlapped, twisting into something no longer human. A chorus of broken echoes. Look at us. The whisper came right beside his ear. Cold. Breathing. Alive. Min's body trembled uncontrollably. Every instinct screamed at him to run. To scream. To respond. Anything to make it stop. Then, suddenly, silence. Total. Absolute. Min slowly lowered his hands. His ears rang in the emptiness. The room felt wrong. Too empty. Too still. Then he realized something. The door was no longer being knocked. Because it was already open. A slow creaking sound filled the room. Min's eyes moved, inch by inch, toward the doorway. Darkness stood there. Thick. Heavy. Watching. And within that darkness, shapes. Not one. Not two. Many. Standing. Waiting. Their heads tilted slightly. As if listening. As if waiting for him to speak. One of them stepped forward. Its voice came out in a broken whisper. Just one word. Min's lips trembled. His throat burned. The urge to answer clawed at him from the inside. But he remembered. The warning. The rule. The only rule. Do not answer. He shut his eyes tightly. Said nothing. Did nothing. Time passed. He didn't know how long. Seconds. Minutes. Maybe longer. Then, the air shifted. The presence retreated. The darkness at the door thinned. The shapes disappeared. The door slowly creaked shut on its own. Min collapsed forward, his body shaking violently, his breath coming in sharp, uneven gasps. He had survived. Again. But as he lay there, barely able to move, a single thought crept into his mind. Cold. Quiet. Certain. They weren't just calling him anymore. They were waiting for him to become one of them. Chapter 8. The one who answered. Min didn't plan to leave the house that day. But by noon, he realized something far worse than fear was beginning to take hold of him. Curiosity. It crept in slowly, quietly, like a second voice beneath his own thoughts. The more he tried to ignore what had happened, the stronger the need became. He needed to know. About the lake. About the voices. About the people who had answered. The village was quieter than ever. When Min stepped outside, conversation stopped almost immediately. A few villagers glanced at him, then quickly looked away. Others simply avoided him altogether. As if something about him had changed. Or worse, as if they knew something he didn't. Min walked past the tea stall, past the last row of houses, and toward the forest. No one tried to stop him. No one warned him. That silence felt heavier than any words. The deeper he went, the colder the air became. The forest seemed denser than before. The trees taller, their branches twisting together overhead, blocking out the sky completely. The path beneath his feet was barely visible now, swallowed by damp leaves and creeping roots. Then, he saw it. A house, half hidden among the trees. Old. Abandoned. The door hung slightly open. Min hesitated, then pushed it. The smell hit him first. Dampness. Rot. And something faintly metallic. Like old blood. Inside, the house was in ruins. Furniture lay broken, covered in layers of dust and mold. The walls were stained dark, as if water had seeped through them for years. But that wasn't what caught Min's attention. It was the writing. Everywhere. Scratched. Painted. Carved into the walls. Don't answer. It's not them. It knows your voice. I made a mistake. The words overlapped, repeated over and over, some written neatly, others jagged and frantic, as if the person who wrote them had been losing control. Min stepped closer. At the far corner of the room, something sat slumped against the wall. A body, or what was left of one. Dry. Shriveled. Its skin clung tightly to bone, stretched thin like old parchment. Its fingers were long and curled, nails darkened and cracked. But the worst part was the face. Its mouth was open. Wide. Too wide. As if frozen mid-sentence. As if it had been trying to say something. Right before it died, Min's chest tightened. No. He took a step back. The floor creaked beneath him. And then, a sound. Soft. Wet. From behind him. Min turned slowly. The doorway. Empty. But the air there felt different. Colder. Heavier. Min. The whisper came from inside the house. Not outside. His heart slammed against his ribs. "No," he whispered, shaking his head. But the voice continued. "Closer now. Min, you came?" The body in the corner moved. A faint twitch. Barely visible. But enough. Min froze. His entire body locked in place. The corpse's head shifted slightly. Slowly. Unnaturally. Its empty eyes. Dark. Sunken. Looking at him. Its jaw trembled. Then, with a dry, cracking sound, it moved. "Don't." The voice was weak. Broken. Barely human. Min's breath caught. It was speaking. "Answer." A long pause. The corpse's mouth stretched wider. Wider. Far beyond what should be possible. And then, its voice changed. Clear. Cold. Familiar. "Min." The same voice from the lake. Min stumbled backward, panic flooding his body. "No, no." The writing on the walls. It wasn't just a warning. It was a confession. "I made a mistake. The person who lived here had answered. And now, whatever had taken them was still here." The air grew colder. The walls seemed to close in. The smell of water filled the room. "Min." The voice echoed again. Not just from the corpse. From the walls. From the floor. From everywhere. "Answer me." Min turned and ran. He didn't stop. Didn't look back. Didn't breathe. Branches clawed at his arms as he forced his way through the forest. The ground beneath him felt unstable, shifting with every step, as if trying to pull him down. Behind him, the voice followed. Closer. Closer. "Min." By the time he burst out of the forest and back into the village, his body was shaking violently. His lungs burning with every breath. But the moment he stopped, the voice stopped too. Silence. Min bent forward, gasping for air. He had escaped. Again. But as he slowly lifted his head, his eyes drifted back toward the forest. And for just a second, he thought he saw something. Standing at the edge of the trees. Watching him. Not moving. Waiting.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 9. The Lake Calls Your Name. Min didn't remember deciding to go to the lake. He only realized where he was after he had already left the village behind. The sky was dim again, though it wasn't yet night. A strange gray light covered everything, flattening the world into something dull and lifeless. The forest ahead stood silent, waiting, as if it had always known he would return. Min's steps were slow, uncertain, but they didn't stop. He told himself he shouldn't go. He told himself to turn back. But the thought felt distant, weak, like it didn't belong to him anymore. The deeper he walked into the forest, the quieter it became. No wind, no insects, no sound of his own footsteps. It was as if the world itself had muted everything except one thing. "Min." The voice. Soft. Gentle. Waiting. Min's eyes unfocused slightly. His breathing slowed. "I'm here," he whispered. The words slipped out before he could stop them. Silence followed. A heavy, suffocating silence. Then, the forest shifted. The path ahead opened unnaturally. the trees pulling back just enough to reveal the lake. It was closer than it should have been. Much closer. Min stepped forward. The nameless lake lay before him once more. Dark. Still. Endless. But this time, it wasn't quiet. The surface trembled. At first, it was subtle. Just a faint ripple. Then, circles began to form. One. Then another. Then dozens. Spreading outward across the black water. As if something beneath the surface had just taken a breath. Min. The voice came again. From the lake. Min's chest tightened. His feet moved forward. One step. Then another. Until he stood at the very edge. The ground beneath him felt soft. Unstable. Like it might give way at any moment. Min. Closer now. Right beneath him. The water shifted. A shape formed beneath the surface. Familiar. Too familiar. Min leaned forward slightly. His reflection should have been there. But it wasn't. Instead, he saw a face. His own. Staring back at him from beneath the water. But something was wrong. The eyes were too dark. The smile too slow. Too wide. You came, it said. Min stumbled back. No. But his reflection didn't move with him. It stayed. Floating just beneath the surface. Watching. You answered, it said softly. Min's breath caught. I didn't. You did. The water trembled again. Hands. Thin. Dark. Too many to count. They rose slowly from the lake, breaking through the surface without a sound. Reaching. Stretching. Toward him. Min tried to step back. But his foot sank slightly into the ground. He looked down. The soil beneath him was wet. Not just wet. Moving. Like something beneath it was shifting. Grabbing. Min. The voice came from everywhere now. Above. Below. Inside. Come closer. The hands reached higher. Closer. Closer. Min's body trembled violently. Every instinct screamed at him to run. To break free. To escape. But something held him there. That pull. Stronger than ever. You belong here. The reflection beneath the water smiled wider. Its mouth opening slowly. Too slowly. Too far. And then, it spoke again. In his voice. Come down. Min screamed. He forced his body backward, tearing his foot free from the wet ground. He stumbled, fell, scrambled away from the edge of the lake as fast as he could. The hands lunged, but stopped, just short of reaching him. The moment Min crossed back onto dry ground, everything went still. The lake returned to silence. The hands disappeared. The ripples faded. The reflection was gone. As if nothing had happened. Min lay there, gasping for air, his entire body shaking uncontrollably. He was safe. For now. But as he slowly pushed himself up, he heard it. Not from the lake. From behind him. Min. His blood ran cold. Because this time, the voice sounded exactly like his own. Chapter 10. The Answer. Min didn't remember how he made it back to the house. His body moved, but his mind felt distant, blurred. Like something had reached inside and stirred his thoughts into something unfamiliar. Every step felt heavier than the last, as if the ground itself resisted letting him go. Or worse, as if something was following him. By the time he reached his room, night had already fallen. The darkness inside felt thicker than before. Waiting, Min shut the door behind him, locked it, then checked it again, and again. His hands trembled, refusing to steady. Silence. Too quiet. Min backed away slowly until his legs hit the bed. He sat down, staring at the door as if expecting it to move on its own. Nothing happened. Minutes passed. Then, his entire body froze. The voice, right outside the door. But this time, it wasn't calling from far away. It was close. Too close. Min, opened the door? It was her. His mother. Exactly the same. Every tone. Every breath. Every softness he remembered. Tears burned in his eyes. "No," he whispered. "You're not real." A soft knock followed. Tap. Gentle. Familiar. "Min, it's me. I've been looking for you." His chest tightened painfully. That voice. It wasn't just sound. It carried memories. Warmth. Love. Everything he had lost. "You left me alone," the voice whispered, trembling now. "Why didn't you answer me?" Min's hands clenched into fists. His nails dug into his skin. He knew. He knew it wasn't her. But what if? Another knock. Softer. Weaker. "Min, it's cold out here." A faint sound followed. Drip. 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 Water. Min's breathing became uneven. His thoughts began to fracture. Logic faded. Emotion took over. "Mom?" he whispered. Silence. Then, a soft, relieved breath from the other side. "Min, you can hear me?" His heart stopped. The moment stretched. Heavy. Unavoidable. He shouldn't say anything else. He knew that. But the silence felt worse than the fear. "Mom," he said again, louder this time. And that was the answer. The air changed instantly. The warmth in the voice vanished, replaced by something cold, empty, wrong. Finally, Min's eyes widened. No. Too late. The door handle twisted. Slowly. He had locked it. He was sure he had. But it turned anyway. The door creaked open. And she stood there. His mother. Perfect. Unchanged. Smiling. For one brief, fragile second, Min wanted to believe. Then, she stepped forward. Her feet were bare. Wet. Leaving dark footprints behind her. Her head tilted slightly. Too slowly. Too far. Her smile stretched wider. Wider. Until it broke. "Thank you for answering." The voice was no longer hers. Behind her, the darkness thickened. Shapes moved within it. Dozens. Maybe more. And from somewhere deep inside that darkness came the sound of water. Rising. Min stumbled backward. No, I didn't mean." But the thing only smiled. "You called me in." The room grew colder. The air heavier. And then, the floor beneath Min's feet shifted. Water. Cold. Black. Spreading fast. Min screamed as something brushed against his ankle. A hand. From below. Grabbing. Pulling. And from the doorway. The thing that wore his mother's face whispered softly, "Now, you belong to us."
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 11. The Mistake. The moment Min answered, something inside the room changed. It wasn't just the air. It was everything. The walls seemed to bend slightly, as if the space itself had begun to warp. The corners of the room stretched unnaturally, shadows deepening into shapes that didn't belong to any solid form. The light above flickered. Once. Twice. Then dimmed. Min stumbled backward, his breath coming in sharp, broken gasps. "No, no, this isn't real." But the words sounded hollow. Unconvincing. Even to himself. The thing in the doorway stepped forward. Slow. Deliberate. Each movement accompanied by the sound of water dripping onto the floor. Drip. 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 It still looked like his mother. Every detail perfect. Every memory intact. Except for the eyes. They were too dark. Too deep. Like something endless was looking back at him from inside them. "You shouldn't have done that," it said softly. Its voice had split, two tones overlapping. One warm. One cold. Human and something else, speaking at the same time. Min shook his head violently. "I didn't mean to." "You did." The answer came instantly. Cutting. Certain. "You said my name," it continued. "You gave me your voice." Min froze. His voice. The thing smiled wider. "Now I can be you." The floor beneath Min's feet trembled. The water that had spread across the room began to rise, slowly at first. Then faster, swirling in unnatural patterns. It wasn't flooding from outside. It was coming from nowhere. Or everywhere. Min stumbled as the water reached his ankles. Cold. Unbearably cold. Hands emerged from the surface. Thin. Black. Writhing. They grabbed at his legs. His clothes. Pulling. No. Min kicked wildly, trying to break free. Behind him, the wall shifted. It wasn't a wall anymore. It was water. Dark. Endless. And within it, faces. Dozens. Hundreds. All staring. All watching. All with their mouths open. As if frozen mid-call. They answered too. The thing said softly from behind him. Min turned. Too slowly. The thing was closer now. Much closer. Its face was changing. The features of his mother flickered, distorting like a reflection in broken water. For a moment, he saw something else beneath. A face stretched too long. Eyes too wide. A mouth that didn't belong to any human shape. Then it snapped back. Perfect again. "Do you see them?" it asked. Min shook his head, tears streaming down his face. "No, no, let me go." They didn't leave. It continued, ignoring him. "They're still here." The hands pulled harder, dragging him downward. The water reached his waist. His chest. It was heavy. Thick. Like it didn't want to let him go. They tried to resist too. The thing whispered. Min struggled, clawing at the floor, but it no longer felt solid. Nothing did. Some screamed. The hands tightened. Some begged. The faces in the water shifted. Their mouths moved slightly, almost forming words. But all of them, a pause, answered. The water surged upward. Min gasped as it reached his neck. His chin. He couldn't breathe. The thing leaned closer, its face inches from his. And for the first time, its smile disappeared, replaced by something colder, more ancient. You made the same mistake. The water closed over his mouth, his nose, his eyes. Darkness swallowed everything. The last thing Min saw, before the world disappeared, was his own reflection in the water, smiling back at him. And above the surface, something began to rise, something that now knew how to speak. In his voice. Chapter 12. The Truth Beneath the Lake. Min didn't feel himself drown. There was no moment of suffocation, no desperate struggle for air, no final breath. 1 second, he was sinking. The next, he was standing. The water was gone. Or rather, it wasn't around him anymore. Min stood on something solid. Cold. Smooth. Endless. He opened his eyes slowly. Darkness surrounded him. Not the kind of darkness that comes from the absence of light, but something deeper. Something that felt alive. Then, shapes began to appear. Faint at first, like shadows behind a thick veil. Then clearer. Figures. Standing. All around him. Dozens. Hundreds. Maybe more. They didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't blink. They were just there. Min's chest tightened. "Hello?" he whispered. No response. He took a step forward. The ground beneath him didn't ripple. Didn't shift. It felt real. Solid. Too solid for something beneath a lake. "Where am I?" he asked. A voice answered. "Below." Min froze. That voice. It was his. He turned sharply. Someone stood behind him. Same height. Same face. Same expression. Himself. But not quite. The other Min tilted his head slightly, smiling. "You're where they all end up," it said calmly. Min shook his head. "No, this isn't real." "It is now." The figure stepped closer. Its movements were too smooth, too controlled. "You answered," it continued. "That's all it takes." Min looked around again. At the figures. "Who are they?" he asked, his voice trembling. The other men didn't look. It didn't need to. "Voices," it said. A pause. Waiting to be used. Min's stomach dropped. "They're not dead," the thing continued. "They're remembered." The figures around them twitched slightly. Barely noticeable. But enough. They exist as long as someone remembers them. Long enough for it to learn them. Min's breath became shallow. He whispered. The thing smiled wider. "You've been hearing it this whole time." The darkness shifted. For a brief moment, Min saw it. Not clearly. Not fully. But enough. Something vast. Something wrong. Stretching far beyond the limits of what his mind could understand. Its shape didn't stay still. Didn't make sense. And yet, he knew. It was the lake. Or what lived inside it. It doesn't have a voice of its own. The other men said, "So it takes yours." The figures around them began to stir again. One by one, their mouths opened, not speaking, just waiting. "It learns," the thing continued, "every word, every memory, every emotion." Min stepped back. "No, I won't let it." "You already did." The answer was immediate, final. The other men stepped closer. "Now only inches away. Now I go up," it said softly. Min's eyes widened. "And you stay here." The ground beneath him shifted. Not breaking, not cracking, but pulling. Like gravity had changed direction. The figures around him reached out. Their hands, cold, silent, grabbing him, holding him in place. "No, let me go." But they didn't respond. Because they weren't alive. They were echoes. And now, so was he. The other men began to rise. Slowly. As if lifted by something unseen. As it moved upward, its face changed slightly. More natural. More human. Perfect. Before it disappeared into the darkness above, it spoke one last time. "I'll call for the next one." Then it was gone. Min screamed. But no sound came out. Because beneath the lake, voices don't belong to you anymore. They belong to it.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 13. The Return. Morning came quietly to the village. Too quietly. The rain had stopped. The sky, though still gray, no longer felt oppressive, just empty. A thin layer of mist lingered over the ground, drifting slowly between houses like something unsure whether it should stay or leave. To anyone passing through, it might have seemed like an ordinary morning. But the villagers knew better. They had learned to notice the small changes, the details others would ignore. And that morning, something was wrong. It began with the footprints. Wet, bare, leading from the edge of the forest into the village. They were fresh, still glistening faintly under the pale light. Each step spaced evenly, calm, deliberate. A few villagers gathered at a distance. No one dared to follow too closely. No one spoke. They already understood what it meant. Someone had come back. Min walked into the village just after sunrise. His clothes were soaked. His hair clung to his face in damp strands. Water dripped steadily from his sleeves, from his fingertips, from the hem of his shirt. Drip, drip, drip. He didn't seem to notice. His steps were slow, even, too steady. The villagers watched him from their doorways, from behind windows, from the shadows between houses. No one approached him, because they could see it. His eyes. They were open, but empty. No fear, no confusion, no recognition, just stillness. Min stopped in the middle of the village. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, he smiled. It was small at first, barely there. Then it grew. Too wide, too still. A smile that didn't belong on a human face. Someone gasped. Another turned away. But Min didn't react. He simply stood there, as if listening to something no one else could hear. A faint sound passed through the air, so quiet it was almost nothing. Min. The villagers froze. The voice. It didn't come from the forest. It came from him. His lips hadn't moved. But the sound was unmistakable. "Men." The tone shifted slightly. Soft. Gentle. Familiar. Like a voice meant for someone else. Min's head tilted slowly to one side. As if adjusting. As if learning. Then he spoke. "Can you hear me?" The voice was perfect. Warm. Human. Completely normal. And yet, every person in the village felt the same cold realization settle deep in their chest. That voice was not meant for them. It was meant for someone who hadn't arrived yet. Min took a step forward. Then another. Water continued to drip from his body, leaving a trail behind him. He turned his head slightly, looking toward the nearest house. A child stood there, watching him. Too young to understand. Too curious to be afraid. Min's smile softened. Warmer now. More natural. He took a slow step closer. And spoke gently. "Your mother is looking for you." The child's eyes widened. Because the voice sounded exactly like hers. Behind them, at the edge of the forest, the mist thickened. And far beyond sight, the surface of the nameless lake remained perfectly still. Waiting. Always waiting. Chapter 14. The New Voice. That night, the village did not sleep. No one said it aloud. No one needed to. Doors were locked earlier than usual. Windows were sealed. Lights stayed on longer, then, one by one, turned off, not out of comfort, but out of fear of what might be seen through the glass. Everyone had heard, or felt, or understood. Something had returned. And it wasn't alone. In a small house near the edge of the village, a little girl named Mika lay awake in her bed. Her room was dim, lit only by a weak yellow lamp that flickered occasionally. The shadows on the walls shifted subtly, stretching and shrinking in ways that didn't match the light. She pulled her blanket tighter around herself. She didn't know why she couldn't sleep. She just knew something felt wrong. Then, "Mika?" Her eyes opened instantly. The voice was soft. Familiar. Her breathing quickened. "Mom?" Silence. Then, "Mika, come outside?" The voice trembled slightly. Gentle. Warm. Exactly like her mother's. Mika sat up slowly, her small hands clutching the edge of the blanket. "Mom?" No answer. Just a faint sound. Drip. From somewhere near the door. Mika turned her head. The floor beneath the door was wet. A thin line of water slowly creeping into her room. Her heart began to pound. But not from fear. From recognition. "Mom, are you outside?" The voice came again. Closer now. "Yes, open the door?" Mika slid off the bed. Her feet touched the cold floor. The water reached her toes. She didn't react. Didn't question it. Because the voice felt safe. She walked slowly toward the door. Each step small. Careful. Behind her, the shadows on the wall stretched longer. Twisting. Watching. "Mika?" Her hand reached for the handle. Just as her fingers touched it, the door opened. Not by her. By something outside. Mika froze. Standing in the doorway was Min. his clothes still damp, water dripping steadily from his sleeves, from his hair, from his fingertips. But his face was calm, smiling, soft, kind, familiar. "Mika," he said gently. And when he spoke, it wasn't his voice. It was her mother's. Perfect. "Mide, come to me." Mika's eyes filled with tears. "Mom." She stepped forward. The water beneath her feet deepened slightly. Cold. Dark. Min's smile widened. Behind him, the darkness thickened. And within it, shapes. Faint. Still. Waiting. "Mika." The voice softened even more. "I missed you." Mika reached out, her small hand trembling, almost touching him. And for a brief moment, just a single second, something flickered across Min's face. A distortion, like another expression trying to break through. Something trapped, something still there. But it disappeared instantly, replaced by that same gentle smile. "Come here," he whispered. Mika stepped forward and vanished into the darkness beyond the doorway. The door slowly closed behind her. Click. Silence. Inside the room, the water receded. The shadows returned to normal. The air stilled, as if nothing had happened. Outside, Min stood in the dark, not moving, not blinking, listening. Then, very softly, he spoke again. "Mika." But this time, the voice was no longer her mother's. It was his. And somewhere deep beneath the earth, the lake responded.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 15. The Rule That Never Changes. Years passed. Or perhaps, not that many. In the village, time had a strange way of moving, quietly, unevenly, as if it avoided certain places, certain memories. The forest remained dense, silent, untouched. And deep within it, the nameless lake. It had not changed. Not really. Its surface was still dark. Still. Endless. No reflection. No movement. But the villagers knew better than to trust what they saw. Because the rule still existed. It was passed from parent to child. In whispers. In warnings. In stories told only when necessary. Never go near the lake. And if you hear someone calling your name, a pause, a hesitation, do not answer. The children would always ask why. And the adults would always give the same answer. Because it won't be them. But that was never enough. It never is. One evening, as the sky faded into a dull gray and the wind stilled completely, a traveler arrived at the village. He was young, unfamiliar, unaware. He carried a bag over his shoulder and questions in his eyes. "Is there a place I can stay?" he asked. The villagers exchanged glances. Someone pointed him toward an empty house. The same house. The one Min had once lived in. That night, the village fell into silence once more. Inside the house, the traveler lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the unfamiliar quiet pressing in from all sides. Then, a voice. Soft. Distant. Calling. "Hey." The traveler frowned slightly. "Who's there?" Silence. Then again. "I've been looking for you." The voice was warm, gentle, familiar. Too familiar. The traveler sat up slowly. "Dad?" he whispered. A pause. Then, a soft, almost relieved breath from outside the door. "You can hear me?" The traveler's heart began to race. He stood, walked slowly toward the door. His hand hovered over the handle. Behind him, the room felt colder, heavier. But the voice felt right. Safe. Open the door. A faint sound followed. Drip. 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 Water. The traveler hesitated. Just for a second. Just long enough to remember something. A warning someone had given him earlier that day. "Whatever you hear at night." His fingers tightened slightly. "Don't answer." Silence. The voice didn't come again. Not immediately. It waited. Patient. Listening. The traveler swallowed. His lips parted. "Dad?" And that was enough. Outside the house, something smiled. Deep within the forest, the surface of the lake trembled. Just slightly. Just once. Because the rule had never changed. If you hear your name, do not answer. And somewhere, even now, something is still calling. Waiting. For the next voice. For the next answer. If you've ever heard a familiar voice in the dark, ask yourself, is it really who you think it is? Because some things don't need a face. They only need your voice to exist. And once you answer, the calling will never stop.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.